which is basically, look, I don't understand everything about platinum, but I see the charts, and if you want some, you think it's awesome. It is denser than gold, which is pretty cool. You hold one, it's pretty cool to hold. You can get some. It's not a bad idea. Yeah, I don't say it's the best way out. It's the most plausible way out, and it's probably what's going to happen because there's only two options, really. You can't grow yourself out of theft. Right? Inflation it's stealing. And the idea of growing yourself out of stealing is that if you get the people to produce more and more stuff that you can steal without them noticing, then things can limp along for a while longer, but it never solves the problem. We've been growing out of theft since the 1930s, and we're already like 80 years into this, and it's going to end. So there's no growing out of it. And even if you did grow out of it so that the problem became less noticeable for a while, the debt would just keep building anyway. You got to get rid of the debt. So there's two ways to do it. Only two ways to do it. Either you do it honestly, and let's say Trump has some kind of God moment, and he's like, look, we can't do this anymore. We're just going to default on everything and let the chips fall where they may, and set up safety nets wherever he can, keep law and order in the big cities as it's happening, something like that. None of this is going to happen. So this is all just like theoretical. And then just let the treasuries fall, and then the dollar would survive. Anyone who owns treasuries would default. All the banks would collapse. The entire financial picture would have to be reorganized. Lots of people would starve to death, but hopefully, there'd be enough law and order to prevent a complete zombie apocalypse, and that's one way out. And then you start with sound money again. Okay, that would be the honest way to do it. And therefore, like anyone who has dollar cash or gold would survive, right? Just like the Great Depression, except much, much worse. The other way is we're going to keep paying this.
Real World Asset Wealth: How to Protect Your Wealth from the Upcoming Financial Impact. Download this brand new report for free and get instant access to our resources. Click the button below the video now.
Debt, but there's no way to do it other than just like print the money to pay it, and then the debt is repudiated anyway, and you have the same exact process, except the major difference being that people who have dollar cash also have nothing, and the only people that have any purchasing power left are those with gold and silver and other real assets that are much less liquid, right? Let's say people with just cars and real estate and a business or two that is now bankrupt and only has its capital to sell at a discount, they would have some purchasing power, but a lot less than people with gold and silver, because businesses and cars and inventory and real estate are much less liquid than gold and silver, which is why their prices go crazy every time there's a boom and a bust. Right? That's what makes them not money. Doesn't mean they're worthless, but it means they're not money. So yeah, hyperinflation is the most plausible way out of it, and we are headed there. And once it happens, everything that would happen in a debt repudiation is going to happen anyway. There's two paths, but they go like this and they meet up. We can either go this way or this way, and we end up in the same place. So, take your pick. Either way, you'll be fine with gold and silver. In a debt repudiation, you'd also be fine with physical dollar cash, not with deposits. They would go away. And the other way, you'd only be fine with gold, and dollar cash would be dead too. I do speculate on gold mining stocks, and I could be wrong for doing that. It makes me nervous. I don't spend all my money on it, obviously, but I do own some gold and silver mining stocks. Basically, on the assumption that when hyperinflation does happen, the government isn't going to confiscate everything, and even though brokerages would be in trouble or even fall, they'd keep the records alive as to who owns what, rather than seize everything. And once I don't know exactly how, but once all the dust settles and everything is sorted out, those who own stocks through their brokerages now will still own them after everything is done. I don't know if that's going to happen. So it's risky. But I think it's likely enough to happen that I'm willing to stake some of my wealth on gold and silver mining stocks. There's so much that could happen, because it's not like the 1930s or 40s where you could like call up a company directly and just like buy their stock and they would just sell it to you directly and then you own it. a lot of other researchers go into this in much more depth than I do, that you don't really own the stocks. You own a claim to a claim to a claim to a claim to a brokerage to a claim. And it's like it's a very derivative, very tenuous derivative chain. So who knows what's going to happen. So like in terms of other stocks, like let's say Nvidia or any of these tech bubble stuff, I stay completely away from that. I have no idea what's going to happen to them in the this all seems like just inflation chasing bubbles, and it's all that is all definitely going to end. In terms of the resource stocks and the commodity stocks, better chance of keeping your wealth, and assuming your ownership titles to them don't get destroyed in an endgame scenario, you should end up pretty well with them, because companies that first of all are fiscally responsible and aren't tied to floating rate debt or anything, they should survive the end game in some form, and they should be able to pay real dividends, because that's the intrinsic value of a stock. How much is it going to pay you to hold it? Other than that, it's just a baseball card. So I'd stick to dividend paying resource stocks, not just gold and silver, other resource stocks as well, but not all of them, because who knows what you'll have in the end. No, I haven't read the book. Maybe I should, but from what I hear about it, I pretty much I get the point, and I can't disagree with the point. Like I've read outlines and that kind of stuff. I don't think I have to spend my time going through the details. I understand that they want to take everything. I understand that they're totalitarian kleptomaniacs. I get it, and I don't dispute that. My point in these things, these kind of arguments, is that yeah, they want to steal everything, but there's a limit to how much they can take before there's a revolt, right? Laws and legal structures and this and that, they in the end, they're just words on paper. So if they really did take everything, and then people have, let's say, $1 million in their brokerage account, and then a great taking happens, and they're like, oh, sorry, you have nothing. And then this happens all over the country. You're not going to have law and order the next day. People are going to lynch the brokerage offices or whoever is in charge of taking them. They're not going to take it. So there's a limit to how much you can take. There's a limit to a great taking before people just erupt. And my point is, like, they can try, but they can't just enslave the planet. You can't have a situation where everyone is a slave. It cannot work. And I know they're trying, but that's irrelevant what they try. Like, you can't steal everything. And if you do, and if we're in a world where they can, and then we're all slaves, like, let's say theoretically the great taking happened and everybody loses all their stocks, and now that's all goes to the government. Okay, well then everyone's a slave, and then what about the people who collect gold and silver? If they take all of your stocks, you don't think they're going to go into all of the gold and silver